Are you ready to get your feet wet? Because this is the Knowledge Pool, hosted by Gathering Information. We're here to bring you a casual conversation between friends about everything to do with collecting, trading, and playing Magic the Gathering.
I am Tams.
I am Step.
And I am Laura.
So put on your bathing suits and dive right into the Knowledge Pool. Hello and welcome to episode 24 of the Knowledge Pool.
Hi.
I think that democratically we should be going around the table to start the episodes instead of someone just snagging all the glory and remembering, well, looking up all of the episode numbers.
We totally can, if somebody wants to take the next one. We're here, of course. We have our very own child of Alara, Tams. How you doing?
Hi. I'm good. How's it going?
She's 5-color and destroys all permanents.
And, of course, the scion of the Dragon, Laura.
That one I can hardly dispute.
And I am, of course, your indulgent tormentor, Step. Welcome.
Oh, very good.
Welcome.
Very good.
We are here to talk Magic, once again.
That's right.
And we've actually played quite a bit of Magic this week.
We have, but first, the news.
Tams is like, have we?
Did we?
We did.
Yeah, we did.
Well,
Okay.
some of us did.
Yeah,
Sure.
so news. What do we have for the news?
Nothing, except for Commander spoilers.
I have already pre-ordered a complete set of the decks.
So, yes, they've spoiled several of the
of stuff.
cards, specifically a lot of the like named characters, the rares, the mythics, that sort of things, for the decks that aren't wizards.
Yeah.
I have one thing to say. Cat Lord. Oh my gosh.
Even just saying it. But they've also
The
spoiled
rats.
some...
So bad.
That was very cute,
Yeah.
flavor-wise. There's a cat card that makes your opponents create rats and gives all of your cats protection from rats.
Yes, and every time you kill a rat,
You
all
get
your
a
cats
counter.
get +1/+1 counters. I'm going to try to remember to link in the description. I saw one of the Magic channels. It wasn't Lure, but it's one of them. They did a thing on what happened in the development team when they decided to do
I
that
saw
particular
that too,
card.
yeah.
It was so funny. So I'll try to link that because it's quite good.
They've also... So they started off by revealing many of the cards that were actually leaked previously, which is not really a surprise. Strategically speaking, it's the best way to build the hype because they're starting with what we already know and building on it with the cards that we haven't seen before.
And giving us higher res images of the things we already saw. Yeah.
Yeah, but it means that, excitingly, we've finally gotten to the vampires, which nobody had seen anything about.
Oh, I'm so excited for that too.
And aside from the fact that the art is amazing, let's just bask in the glory of Edgar Markov.
He's glorious.
He's going to be my man.
3 red, white, black for a legendary creature, Vampire Knight. He's a 4/4 for 6. But he has First Strike. And he has Haste.
That seems alright.
And he has Eminence, which is the mechanic I think we already talked about.
Yeah, for all of these new commanders for this cycle.
Whenever you cast another, in this case, vampire spell, if Edgar Markov is in the command zone or on the battlefield, create a 1/1 black vampire creature token.
It seems pretty good. I mean, if anyone's played this most recent limited set, they know how powerful Oketch's Monument is.
Yeah, and this is a free
Yeah,
Oketch's
it doesn't cost
Monument.
you a card specifically. You don't have to pay mana for the effect. And in vampires specifically, a lot of your creatures are played early on in the game because they're all pretty low casting costs.
Yeah.
So it means that you can get out to a quick start.
Kind of weird, really, that vampires in Magic take that place where you'd expect not exactly zombies to be, but I guess it's in Black's color pie that it's...
Yeah, I think that's probably more what it is because there are certainly vampires that are more costly. You know,
Well, like the
especially
Vampire Lords.
sure. And I was also thinking like some of the theme sets, such as Innistrad,
Sure, yeah.
had or Shadows over Innistrad more recently had some that were at the 5 or 6 casting cost, or like the twins of Mario State, which were
Yep.
a 5 drop some of the time. And yeah, so I think that this is a really powerful effect in any sort of go wide strategy.
So speaking of Vampire Lords, this
yeah.
also has more text.
Well, so if it just stopped there, we'd all say it seems pretty good.
Yeah,
Seems good to me.
Seems great. Like, it doesn't... You don't even have to cast it, and you get a free 1/1 basically every turn, we're
Right.
assuming, for the first few turns.
But, you know,
So when he attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control.
It's not even does damage. It's just attacks.
It's an attack trigger, and it doesn't say other.
So he attacks as a 5/5.
So he attacks as a 5/5.
First striking haste.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet Jiminy Cricket.
So
Surprise!
you play him on 6, and he attacks as a 5/5.
Well, you know why he's 6, right? Because otherwise it would be completely unfair.
Yeah.
But, I mean, let's say you put a Catcher's Monument in your deck.
White creatures. He's
or
a
you
white
drew your
creature.
Soul Ring.
Yep.
Or insert any other commander ramp cards, of which there are approximately 11 billion. And, cast them on turn 4 or 5. You've already got yourself some some vampires that you've played and that are on the board.
I mean, come to that, I'm wondering if the Red Monument might not be fine in Commander.
Yes.
It gives you rummaging, right?
Well, specifically in Vampires, which has Madness.
Yeah.
So you get your Falcon Wrathgorger out, giving all of your vampires Madness, and then you're just rummaging away with your Oketra's or your Hatheret's Monument.
I think I feel a brew coming on.
It could be really powerful early game strategy.
There's another legendary vampire, who's a possible commander for this deck. Mm-hmm. I mean, Edgar is the one that's supposed to be the lord. But we also have Lycia, Sanguine Tribute, who is 5 red, white, black for a 4/4. But, and she's a vampire soldier, so...
Cool.
There's some cross... Vampire Knight, Vampire Soldier. There's some cross-tribe action going on here. Mm-hmm. But she does cost 1 less to cast for each 1 life you've gained this turn.
Interesting. So that would definitely be a different strategy than if you had Markov as your commander?
Yeah. You'd be more in the life gain, and then, I mean, if you gain 5 life once, she's a 3-drop.
Yeah.
Seems fine. And she gets... also doesn't get as expensive later when you have to recast her several times if you're gaining life every turn.
That's true.
She also has First Strike. She also has Lifelink.
Oh.
So she's a 4/4 Lifelink for 5, 6, 7, 8. You can also pay 5 life to put 3 +1/+1 counters on her. Activate this ability only on your turn and only once each turn. So,
but it doesn't say it has to be at sorcery speed.
No, so you can do this in response to removal or
during your combat phase.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So that also seems real good.
And you're going to be getting that 3 life back anyway.
The 5
5 life back anyway.
On her first hit, because she'll be lifelinking for 7.
Yeah.
With First Strike.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Seems like exactly the kind of bargain that vampires would like.
So what are you two going to be playing?
I'm going to be playing cats.
So
fair enough.
I do appreciate that, both potential commanders do have fairly different strategies, which in a tribal deck could probably be a bit difficult, but it's obviously something that they've put a lot of thought into. So I appreciate that.
Do we want to talk about a bunch of spoilers? Or
we can talk about your favorites.
Is there anything else that anyone's really excited about? How about the Ur-Dragon?
Wizards.
Wizards?
What?
So, we don't really have wizards, except there is this shady card that I don't know where it came from.
Well, that would be one of the leaked cards, so... Yeah, we're still waiting to hear about Grixis Wizards.
So, I'm less excited about wizards in general than the other 3 tribes.
That's because you have no... Heart and soul are wrong, I'll say mind. Because obviously that's what wizards embody.
Sure. I'll be waiting to see what they throw in, because obviously it won't take much to get me excited about...
Sure, I'm a little trepidatious just because some of the, pre-con, specifically Izzet command deck, I haven't super liked the feel of.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I like black fine. It's maybe my second favorite color, but... No, it's my third favorite color, let's not lie. But I just don't know if it's... Because if it's, super spell heavy and spell matters and you're trying to, burn your opponents out with card draw or whatever nonsense they're doing this time around, I'll be less excited. But if it's a lot of card draw and, board wipes and counter magic and terrible monstrous things like that...
Well, I imagine we'll be seeing, what's her name? Azami, Lady of Scrolls? The one who...
Oh, yeah. She was super good.
Makes wizards draw cards.
They sure do.
As far as things that are actually spoiled, one of my big ones that I am excited about is seeing Miri on a card again.
Mm-hmm.
Miri, the Cat Warrior, or in this case, Miri, Weatherlight Duelist, is 1 green-white for a 3/2 with first strike, which also seems perfectly
So
good.
this is before she became a vampire?
Yes, or in an alternate timeline, who knows.
Sure.
She was originally green, and then she was vampired and became black. So this is green-white. Whenever Miri, Weatherlight Duelist attacks, each opponent can't block with more than 1 creature this combat.
Ooh.
And she has first strike.
Yeah.
As long as Miri, Weatherlight Duelist is tapped, no more than 1 creature can attack you each combat. So, I think that's interesting.
My vampires.
Yes.
That's mean.
Especially because, I mean, even in the most recent set, we've seen things like lands that can tap your creatures for different colored mana and stuff, even when they have summoning sickness.
Mm-hmm. I like this a lot. The flavor is you fight me. Like, Duelist is very much
absolutely
flavorful there.
I think it's pretty neat.
And Miri Cat Warrior is, like, I don't know, an old favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, that's at least something they should be considering is the whole nostalgia factor of Commander, because I think it does touch everybody who plays it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Can we talk a little bit about the cycle of curses?
Sure.
If you like.
I don't know what people are interested in. I know what I'm interested in. So the cycle of curses each have the same-ish text. So they enchant player... it cycled down on me. Okay. They enchant a player, and then whenever the enchanted player is attacked, you get a thing, and the person attacking that player gets a thing.
As long as that person is not you.
Right. So, for instance, the Curse of Vitality, 2 and a white, whenever enchanted player is attacked, you gain 2 life, and each opponent attacking that player does the same.
So these decks are specifically for multiplayer.
Yes.
Which is true of all of the precons.
It makes me so much less interested.
Well, I mean, that's...
I don't like multiplayer Commander, for the most part. But
I would like to play more multiplayer Commander. I like Commander as a format, and the fact that it's geared toward multiplayer makes me more interested in multiplayer in that setting. How about Two-Headed Giant Commander?
If you're only playing with 2 decks, maybe. Oh, you mean each playing? No, I don't know. For me, it
what about cat dragons versus vampire
didn't
lizards?
you like your Two-Headed Giant sealed?
Yeah, it was fine, but my problem with Commander as a general format is its tendency in multiplayer to go long, and I just don't have the patience or the attention span for 2-hour
that
multiplayer.
Has not been my experience.
Oh, I have watched Commander games go forever.
I think it depends on playgroup, because some playgroups have different policies about combo decks and infinite combos.
Yeah, I guess. I also have a thing as a player who, like, for example, at League this week, I'm playing against somebody and I'm really kicking their butt and I'm feeling really guilty because they're getting crushed, and then in a multiplayer thing, I don't want to attack anybody because then you make yourself a target, and it's just not my favorite.
Sometimes not attacking people can make you a target, Brian.
Yeah, that's what I do too. And
I mean, there are also some decks where the entire game plan is to put up enchantments that require players to attack people.
Sure.
Like there's one that says that you have to attack the player on your left.
Sure, but it just
if you're going to attack anyone.
Just as a format, it's just not my thing.
Sure.
I love the decks. I like playing 1v1. Sometimes. It's a sometimes food.
Okay. All right. Well, there really isn't... Oh, I guess there's one more that really caught my eye, and that's the card that had phasing.
Ah, yes. Phasing, a mechanic that has not been seen in 20 years.
So
outside of cubes.
So this is Teferi's Protection, and people who know about Teferi, he was a student at the... Crap, what was the academy? Tolarian Academy. And...
How'd you forget that?
Sorry. Was partially responsible for all of the time-shifted shenanigans. So Teferi's Protection is 2 and a white for an instant until your next turn. Your life total can't change, and you have protection from everything. And any card that says protection from everything has got to be fun, right?
Well, that's what they said about Progenitus.
So all permanents you control phase out. While they're phased out, they're treated as though they don't exist. They phase in before you untap during your untap step. And then the final clause is exile Teferi's protection. So you can't do it twice.
So strictly better fog.
Not really, because it costs 3 mana.
Fair enough.
But
I mean, as Step mentioned to me prior to the show, it does not trigger any enter the battlefield effects because your permanents do not leave the battlefield.
right.
Yeah.
They're still
Phasing
there-ish.
is super weird.
But,
It's super weird.
you know, if you're playing a super white heavy deck and you just want to chill out and make everybody else attack each other, this could be the good card for you.
Except it only lasts for 1 turn, so...
Sometimes
Sure,
one turn's all you need.
But I think after a big alpha strike and you're afraid of the crackback.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Until your next turn, that's true.
Well,
So it could be
especially-
4 turns in...
I mean, especially if you go, okay, I'm going to attack you with everything. And then they go, okay, well, in revenge, I'm going to attack you back with everything. And you go, oops, sorry, you've tapped all your creatures. If only there were 2 other players in this game who are now incentivized to kill you while you're tapped.
Yeah. Because they can't touch me.
Right.
Yeah. So it's super interesting.
It's shenanigans.
I guess the only mechanic that's a little more convoluted... Well, no, banding is more convoluted.
Yes.
But phasing is... At least they're still on the battlefield, they just can't be interacted with.
Yeah.
The thing that I always found confusing was suspend, because they're exiled, these cards with suspend, with counters on them, which is so weird.
Yeah.
I always found fading to be slightly odd, especially with, like, Tangle Wire specifically.
Fading and vanishing, and
Yes.
they're
yes.
different but the
Oh,
same.
Tangle Wire. We got Tangle Wired on Midgo several times, and it was like
The
smashing
joyous
your
interactions of Cube, yes.
face against a wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing that was fairly recent that I know you guys wanted to talk about was coverage.
Yeah, so we watched, what was it?
We
We
watched
watched
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis,
That's
which
right.
was, of course, Channel Fireball doing. They've recently taken over all
All the
coverage.
coverage.
And what a difference. At least from the last time I watched coverage, their interface on the screen was so much better.
It was very clean.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of clutter.
And you could keep track of everything very simply. You could see the cards much better. It's something I've always had problems with.
Yeah, they were able to get in nice and close to the
Yeah.
play area.
And both sets of commentators that we saw, which was Marshall and... what's his name?
Buddy guy.
I called him Dimples, which is terrible because it's just terrible.
Did he have an accent?
No, he didn't. He's a one-time Pro Tour
GP winner or something.
Pro Tour winner. Anyways, he was very good. And then they had Melissa Del Tura and was it Maria?
Megan.
Megan. Magic the Amateuring.
Yeah.
And they back and forth between whatevers. And Marshall's always great because he always has something to say. He's always amusing.
Yes, he's well experienced at this
Yes,
point.
He was
he's
born to
definitely-
host
yeah,
radio.
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
And the matches were great. I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with the coverage team, but they were just so good right down till the finals. And I've already gone out and taken a look for the winning deck list.
Priced out the mono black.
The mono black zombie deck because it's so great. It's
Let's-
really cool.
It is right up your alley.
It sure is.
Let's talk about it going, what was it, 14-0?
14-0, yeah.
Oh, man.
So I did end up watching some of the GP just because you guys mentioned how impressed you were by it. But recently I've also watched pretty much all of the Pro Tour from last weekend. And I think that the Pro Tour is still better quality coverage.
Okay.
Like, just because they have presumably more money to throw around at
Absolutely.
Probably.
Yeah.
So I like their interface a bit more. They do a better job of making the cards readable, although I definitely agree with you that at the GP it was much improved from the last time I watched one. But on the other hand, the GP also had very little downtime.
Yeah.
Compared to the Pro Tour, where the only way I'll watch it is on the YouTube VOD, so I can skip about 3/4 of each episode, in quotation marks, of each round, because they had so much filler and commercials and crap.
Yeah.
So it, like, I, did watch some of the GP, but I also was just skipping around to see how much nothingness there was. There was almost none.
Yeah.
The last time I watched a Pro Tour was Pro Tour Dragon's Maze. So that's like the experience I have with Pro Tour coverage.
I mean, it makes sense. There are many fewer people at the Pro Tour, and they only have, particular pods set up for feature matches so that they can have the camera in, and they have things set up, so they have to, wait between pods because there's only so many pods, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I assume logistically it makes sense at the GP. They can just kind of keep things going a little bit snappier.
Yeah.
But it makes a huge difference if you're just constantly watching Magic.
That's how we got sucked in. We were going to watch a game just to see what it was like. And before we knew it, 4 hours has gone by and we're on the finals. And we're like, oh no, we have to see how this ends. Yeah. Especially considering...
Spoiler alert.
The two guys in the final, just their personality was so vastly different. You have Steve Locke, who has gone 14-1. He's been playing all day. 14-0, sorry.
13-0 at that point.
Yeah, and he's so focused, and you can tell he's the kind of player that goes internal. Mm-hmm. And he's polite, but he doesn't talk. He's just very quiet, no expression on his face ever. And then you have the other guy who sits down and he's just laughing and stealing trail mix from the judge and joking around and trying to engage his opponent in conversation, who's very politely kind of smirky, kind of
I'm focused.
It's kind of like a Kirk versus Spock kind of thing.
Yeah, but as soon as he started playing, he was just as focused.
Cold.
I mean, he had to have been to get that far.
Yeah, and then at the end when the results came in, we got smiles out of the non-smiley guy.
Is it just me, or did Steve Locke, was it Steve Locke?
Steve Locke.
Look a lot like Mark Rosewater's quiet twin.
Yeah. He was really good. He's playing this very aggressive deck, and he was so patient. Mm-hmm. He would hold off on things because he knew it wasn't advantageous for him to be too aggressive with things. Yeah. And it was really, really educational to watch how he piloted that deck.
It was really good
cool.
Magic.
Yeah, I have to say, watching the Pro Tour, specifically in the top 8, watching Paulo Vitor Damarosa, who's of course one of the best Magic players of all time.
Yeah.
So in, I think, the semifinals, he's playing against his opponent. He loses game 1 because he mulls to 5. He loses game 2 because he mulls to 5. And then he wins game 3 after mulling to 5. He wins game 4 after mulling to 6. And it's...
Wow.
So he eventually does the reverse sweep, but just watching him continue to make correct mulligan decisions after losing 2 games in a row because he mulled to 5, playing the mono red deck against the mono red deck.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you can definitely get a lot out of just watching these people play their decks.
Well, what I like also is, for example, you were showing me the limited.
Yes.
One of the limited rounds.
Oh, it was my favoriteest thing ever. I wish I could draft decks this sweet.
And to look at the deck that was created,
specifically John Finkel's 4 Obelisk Spider.
Right. 4 Obelisk Spider approaches the second sun
which
deck.
he was splashing off of Manalith only, I think.
Only, yeah. No. It was ridiculous.
It was amazing.
That's the perfect splash card anyway.
Oh, it absolutely is. And he was... Of course, he was playing it perfectly. He's John Finkel, the best Magic player of all time. Mm-hmm. But, why don't I get past 4 Obelisk Spiders when I draft?
What was awesome was his opponent.
Yes,
who the first,
Frank Karsten.
Yeah, so Karsten, the first game, he doesn't see the approach, but he sees the 3
Obelisk
spiders, which he then, returns from the graveyard. He returns 2 of them, and he's just like, ah. And of course, he also has...
He is playing red-white.
Yes.
Which is probably this deck's best matchup.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Finkel has a board wipe.
Bontu's Last Reckoning.
Yeah. And so game 2, he has no reason to think there's an approach in there because he's not
running any planes.
He's not running planes. And then suddenly he drops it and he's kind of like, what?
What am I supposed to do now?
And then after everything is over, you can see the 2 of them talking and you see Finkel holding up 4 fingers. He's like, no, I'm not running 3, I'm running 4 Obelisk Spiders.
You wish you were this lucky.
Yeah. It was amazing fun.
So I have to say, I think part of the reason that you never get to draft those decks is because people at the shop level, especially our shop level, go into different things.
Yes.
Like, when you're watching high-level players draft, they will choose their lane, they will understand their lane and settle it.
Yeah, they're very disciplined about how they draft.
Yeah. And
they'll say, oh, well, I could draft this, this expensive or powerful rare that is not in the colors I firmly settled myself into in packs 1 and 2, so I'm going to pass it.
Yeah.
And
Whereas at the shop level, that would never happen.
Yeah, and nor, I guess, should it. Like, whatever you want for F&M is fine. If you want to go and do something kooky, go and do something kooky. It's
If you say,
absolutely
oh,
cool.
well, I guess I've opened a bounty of Alexa. I'm going ridiculous nonsense or whatever. That's totally fine.
But I would love to get into a draft like that where everyone knows their lane and settles so that everyone has better decks overall by the end of it.
And the problem is, I mean, even with MitGo competitive, draft leagues, you don't really get that either because they still have a threshold for rare drafting.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. And they should. I mean, drafting online costs a fair amount of money, especially if you're Canadian.
Yeah.
And it costs you even more money.
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, there are also ghost drafts that
Phantom
they do,
Seal.
phantom drafts that they do and stuff. But those are always like $10. Who is going to pay that much for a phantom draft? Like when they do the flashback sets and stuff like that, it's really expensive to do. And yes, it means that people are much more likely to draft the best deck as opposed to the best cards for them for whatever reason. But
And that's why we end up doing them when they do come back on the rare occasion that they do. If it's a set we are either have never done and is just interesting, or something we've missed out on or missed.
The biggest reason that I never do them on MitGo, or that I rarely do them, is that they are often single limb. And if I'm going to get into one of those drafts, that a set I've never been able to play, I want to play the games. I'm not there for the tickets. I'm there to play Magic that I've never played.
yeah.
So if they had the choice between Swiss and single limb, I would play many sets of Swiss.
So MitGo should take note of that. Because
like,
I think that's true
that was
for a lot
when
of
they
people.
did their year of flashbacks where they did every single set. I was super excited until I found out they were single limb, and I was like, well, what's even the point?
Yeah, like at that point, why don't you just buy 24 packs with 8 friends or 7 friends, split the cost, and then just do an actual draft?
Yeah.
Yeah, makes
And
sense.
then you can keep the cards forever.
Yeah.
It's true.
So yeah, that's pretty much it for the news. Congratulations on the coverage team for vastly upping their game.
Oh yeah, it makes me want to watch more, which is good because you learn when you watch.
Even though nobody will ever top P. Sully and Cedric. Ever.
Okay.
So yeah, next is just what have we been up to?
Well, we have a draft going live on our channel tonight that's gathering information, which you should
I draft.
absolutely check out because Tams went AWOL and drafted on her own.
It's true. It's true.
She left the reservation.
And it turned out pretty sweet. So
It's because I played by the rules and drafted smart and not
Boring.
fun. It's true.
I came
It's
back for the
awesome.
games. Like, we played the games together, so I at least got to play some really fun Magic. But
It was a blast.
yeah,
We had a
you
really
should
good
check it out.
time. Yeah.
I have not had the chance to finish up my red-green drafts.
No?
I was too busy not doing anything for a long weekend.
Ah, yes. There was a
just
long
happened.
weekend in Canada.
You were
That's right.
actively doing nothing.
Yes,
I approve.
thank you.
Yeah.
I lied actually, because this weekend was Games Day.
Oh, that's true.
Right,
So-
how'd that go, guys?
Oh, crap.
I didn't go.
I forgot.
So
Man.
first of all, did you guys go to F&M draft?
No.
No, me neither.
Can't afford it. Going next week.
Yeah.
Or this week, I
This
guess.
week coming,
This week, yeah.
This week coming.
But Steph and I both did Games Days, although we did separate Games Days.
yeah, I was there on the Saturday. I decided, you know what? It's Games Day. I have to. I have to go. I did not get the deck together that I really wanted to play, which I'm calling Ulmer Mill. It's Ben Ulmer from Loading Ready Run shared his mill list, and it looked so good, the Fraying Sanity list, that I'm still trying to put it together. The problem is Startled Awake.
Yep.
Cannot find them anywhere.
They've always been pretty hard to find just because milling is a very popular format at kitchen table level.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But what I did end up going with was Mono Red. The list that I put together before that I hadn't adjusted since it started doing well at the Pro Tour. And
so this is the same one you brought to the GP in Toronto.
yes. And it was really frustrating because I just wasn't drawing well. Like, I was stuck on 2 land in the entirety of one match. after adding more mountains to the list and just not getting creatures. And like half the deck is creatures. Mm-hmm. So I didn't do too well, and I don't really have much to say about it.
All right, so I went on Sunday.
Okay.
Because I'd actually stopped by on Saturday for something unrelated, and the incredibly kind, funny, brilliant, intelligent, etc., shop assistant said that if I came in on Sunday, he would loan me a deck.
That's awesome. He's a sweetie.
He's super nice, and he always has about 15 different standard decks fully built and on his person.
Yeah, he's an amazing brewer, so...
Well, he loves standard, but he hates playing tier decks.
Yeah.
So he always has really interesting brews or, like, adaptions from actual tier decks that he's put his own spin on. I mean, he has all of the top tier cards, and he puts them into his deck. He just does things on a slightly different angle.
Yeah, he was the one who was playing Teamer Marvel with the Red Gear Hulks.
Nice.
Yeah, right?
That's sweet.
Yeah.
So
it was like, I was not expecting that.
So it's funny. So I go into the shop on Sunday. He goes, well, thump, here's this big bag of Magic decks. What are you interested in? Like, he expected me to go through his labeled deck boxes and pick out a deck. So I was like, I'm just looking for something that's not too aggro. Because playing aggro is not really my idea of a fun time, and that's what I was there for. So he's like, how about this Baral Teamer deck? You know, it's got a lot of interesting things going on. So I flip through the deck. I go, yeah, that looks pretty interesting. I like counter spells and drawing cards and stuff. Mm-hmm. What are these other two decks? Like, oh, I don't even remember what the second one was. That one's Black Green Lands. I was like, tell me about that one. It's like, it's actually much more powerful than that Teamer deck I was showing you. It's like, well, then why didn't you show me this one first? So anyways, the land deck, which is one I eventually decided on.
This is the Gitarog.
Yes, I say eventually as though I didn't immediately agree as soon as he mentioned what was in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a Gitrog, Raminep Excavator combination where you sacrifice lands to put them into the graveyard for Gitrog, or just because they're evolving wilds, and then you Raminep Excavator them back out of your graveyard in order to play them as your land for turn. Or if you have the Gitrog monster out, you get to play 2 lands for turn, so you just kind of quasi-ramp yourself using evolving wilds.
And draw cards the whole time.
And draw a card every time you sacrifice a land, or discard a land, or cycle a land, etc.
That sounds fun.
And it has tireless trackers in there.
Oh, of course.
And the 3-mana Liliana.
Oh.
Which mills you.
Ah, yes.
Sweet.
Yes. So if you plus Liliana and you have a Gitrog monster out and you mill a land, you get to draw a card.
Nice.
So it's a pretty sweet deck. It also had a really interesting mishmash of removal. Like, it was running 2 Fatal Pushes, 1 Grasp of Darkness, 1 of that 3-mana instant where your opponent sacrifices a creature, or if you have Delirium, it's a creature and a planeswalker, whatever that one was.
It's funny. You think that consistency is better, and usually it is, but sometimes having these just like random weirdo removal spells, your opponent's not expecting it.
The idea was, because this is of course a fun deck and not a toon deck, he was also running Razakash, that like 5 black, 6 black, 8/8 demon, where you get to sacrifice a creature to go tutoring up a card from your deck.
Okay, yeah, so toolbox it.
Yeah,
sure.
The problem is that there was really not enough ramp support or token support for that strategy, so I ended up siding him out in every single game I played for just anything that was better, because I was finding that the removal was, and the fact that there's so much card draw in the deck was enough that you didn't, because there's also Grim Players as your low end, so you get to reorganize the top of your deck.
So you don't really need tutor if you're just drawing your whole deck.
So I found that was enough for it. And the removal was actually really well suited to what I was playing against. Like, I did have to cause someone to sacrifice their own Hazaret. Because I managed to kill off both of their other creatures with my other removal spells and with a combat thing or something. And I have to say, like I said, it was more of a fun deck than a toon deck. And I did make a couple of suggestions to him if he wanted to tune it, which he hadn't actually looked at the deck in like 4 months or anything like that.
Sure.
So, you know, he hadn't or played it, I don't think. So
he seems to build more decks than he actually plays.
Yes, for sure. But there also, to me, for the Delirium sub-theme, there wasn't enough self-mill. So I often just didn't have enough stuff in my graveyard to do anything that I wanted to do. But
Especially if you're pulling lands out.
yeah, on the other hand, Tireless Tracker, good card.
Yeah.
Liliana, good card. Who knew? She single-handedly won me 2 games against Mono Red because she kills every single one of their creatures.
Of course.
Yep.
By giving them -2/-1 until end of turn, and thus killing pretty much all of them.
That's pretty sweet.
So yes, I ended up going 3-1. I lost in the finals.
Nice.
So, and not only that, I think that if I had played differently, I could have won the finals, but it's a very complicated deck. There's just a lot of decisions that are made, like what you're doing with Liliana, if you do mill her, what you're taking out of the graveyard, you know, which lands you're sacrificing, which lands you're playing out of the graveyards, which removal spell you're using on a particular thing, that sort of thing.
Right.
So, for my first time ever playing the deck or ever seeing it, I am pretty happy with how I did. So, came in second, missed out on a playmat, but got some sweet store credit.
Nice.
And got the shop owner some bragging rights, because of course he deserves at least half the credit for it.
Right.
Yeah. So,
That's pretty good.
yeah, it was a fun game stay. I haven't been out for a couple of sets just because I don't happen to have a standard deck built.
I tend to go out for games days because I want one of those playmats. Eventually, I'm
One
going to
of
get
these
one
days.
of those playmats.
Yeah. So that was it for games day, but then we had League.
Yeah, we did.
And we are all doing fairly well in the league.
Yeah, we're all top 8.
Nice. Are we all top 8?
Yep.
Cool.
Yup.
So who wants to start with their League experience so far?
Sure, since I haven't talked much yet. I love League so much. I'm having so much fun. So from my pack last week, I put perhaps I might have put a 3rd Obelisk Spider in my deck.
Ugh, that's too many.
I know.
I thought you weren't happy with how grindy your deck was getting.
Oh, but it's so much. Well, I had walls in it because I needed extra creatures in the deck at the time.
Sure.
And on games day, on the opening tournament, it really did help with the deck itself, but it was just miserable. So now it might be a little grindy, but it's nowhere near as bad. And actually, I was done my 4 matches before anybody else had even done them, so it was pretty quick.
I wasn't that far behind you.
No, I still was ahead. My first match was against the shop owner's son, who is a really good Magic player. He builds really good decks, and I played him on the opening tournament, and it was one of those things where one of the games he got me down to 5 and I stabilized and killed him, and then he just came back. It was very back and forth. This time, no. My deck's like, land? What is this land you're talking about? You don't need land to play Magic.
Yes, he's playing a very aggressive black-red Delirium, or
Yes.
a flick deck.
Which is why I mulliganed aggressively,
I thought it
because
was red-green.
Nope, red-black.
and it's
Afflict.
brutal. He has all of the removal.
Oh, no, you're right. It is red-green Afflict.
It's something.
Yeah.
There was red. It was
Yeah.
flying at my face. And the thing is, if you don't get out quick,
Oh,
forget
yeah,
it.
he'll stop you with his Neheb.
Yeah, that was it, Neheb. And he kept going, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
As
It's
he
like, it's
stomped you.
fine. It's fine. It just was one of those things. Then I played against another person in a deck, and it was hilarious because he dropped the mirror. And then I'm like, next turn, mirror? He's like, oh, this is going to be interesting. But again, I had severe mana issues. Just one of those days. You know, it just happens. But then my other 2 matches was really strong. I felt bad in my second game of my 3rd match. My opponent sideboarded out of his red-green. I won the first game. And I had Torment of Scarabs to him. And he just took 3, and then that was that. So the second game, he sideboarded into a blue-black deck. And he got down as God. And I had a brief moment of flash where I was like, I cannot final reward as God. I will feel so bad. And then the very competitive brain of mine is like, screw that. I'm getting rid of it. So I went to remove it, and he's like, wait, before it resolves, I'm going to bounce the spell back to your hand. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I guess that happens. And he's like, oh, never mind. I'm tapped out. I forgot. I'm like, oh, so it resolves? Yeah, and his poor God went to the bin. So it was very sad, but I went 2-2. I opened up a Lethal Sting, which for a deck that works on -1 counters, and you can put it on 2 different creatures, which is pretty sweet.
Sorry? The Lethal Sting?
No, not Lethal Sting. Stingy. From
Splendid Agony.
Splendid Agony.
From
of course.
from
Because
Amonkhet.
this was our Amonkhet pack week.
Yeah, so I saw that and I went, oh, hello. I thought I was going to have some trades this week, but they fell through, and then we had to head out. So I still haven't done my trades, but I'm quite happy with the deck as it is. And if I can get some trades in, I'll be happy. But otherwise, see how it goes next week. So I'm 2-2 for the week, which is perfectly respectable.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So I finally lost a match.
Aw, Muffin.
I am 11-1.
Oh,
Poor
no.
baby.
I know, right? I continue to have very good luck. Like, I have seen all of my removal in all of my games, basically.
That does help. Playing well helps as well.
Yes, I have played well, but I also think that luck has something. Like, there was a game where I did not see white. My deck is black-white now. And I did not see white until the game was almost over, but it didn't matter because I was drawing the black half of my deck. You know, like, it just lined up very well against my opponents. Doomfall, is that the card, Doomfall?
Yeah. That's the one that you get the choice of the 2 things?
Yeah. Turns out is a very satisfying turn 3 play when
I would
you're
imagine.
killing their 1 creature and then bashing in for 3 or 4. So that's how my games usually go. I did lose to God Pharaoh's Gift. Which will happen.
You're supposed to kill them before they get that down.
Thankfully, I played the same opponent, and the first game, God Pharaoh's Gift got me, and the second game, I just killed him fast enough that he didn't have a chance.
The thing that really irked me was I'm running a main board for Sake the Worldly, specifically because I knew this player had God Pharaoh's Gift in their deck.
Yeah.
And then I clean forgot about it and cycled Forsake the Worldly because I needed, another creature to continue putting up aggression.
Yeah.
Oh.
And, so I didn't actually lose to God Pharaoh's Gift because I continued to swing in for damage. What I lost to was, is it Overwhelming Splendor?
Is that the enchantment? The white one?
That turns all of my
It is that
creatures
one.
into 1/1s with no abilities.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what happened
I
to me,
was
too.
too shy of killing him.
Isn't that the most miserable feeling? He did it to me, too, and I'm like,
GG's.
Yeah.
yeah, what do you do about that, right?
Yeah, and I still feel perfectly good about 3-1 this week.
Yeah. So my deck just continued to work fine. Last week I had big complaints just about the slowness of my mana base, so I did some fiddling with it. And this week my mana base was much faster, but there were 3 games where I only drew blue sources after mulling to 6 because I only drew blue sources and then didn't draw any green sources in 2 different games, and then in 2 other different games I had my cast out in hand and didn't draw white source even though I have 4 or 5 of them in my deck. So that was annoying.
Yeah.
I'm still not quite sure what to do with it. I mean, aside from just opening up Approach of the Second Sun.
If
or
I
like
have
a
one in
Locust
my pool,
God
I'll let you know.
or something like that. So I'm still kind of messing around with it. I might try and go for a slightly heavier ramp strategy because at the moment I'm not really a ramp deck. I'm just more of a I'm going to draw cards which will ramp me and that I won't miss any land drops, and I have a couple of ramp creatures. Yeah. So I do have a funny story, though, about the shop owner's son, who I also played this week. So game 1, I think I won. Yeah, I won game 1. He stopped me game 2 with his stupid Heb, and it's stupid Afflict 3.
Yeah.
And
brutal.
I was like, God, every time I play him, because this is now the 3rd time I've played him, I won the first time, he won the second time. Like, every time I play you, I'm always like, I wish I just had a little bit more life. Because that would just buy me the time I need, because my deck does much better in the late game than his does, because that's the whole point of my deck.
Sure.
So I sided in my 2 copies of Life Goes On.
Really?
The single green instant where you gain 4 life, or if a creature died that turn, you gain 8 life.
What did you take out for them?
A spell and a creature.
Okay.
Yeah, so
My
explain
Beneath
how
the Sands was the spell I took out.
Okay, yeah.
And then I think my Initiate's Companion or something was the 2-drop I took out.
Okay.
It was just, my 2 least good cards. And I had one in my opening hand, and I drew the second on about turn 3.
Yes.
Okay.
So explain how it went down. It's pretty funny.
So yeah, I had a couple of hoopus out. I was playing some things.
A couple of hoo-boos.
It's
I
not
mean-
poo-poo, it's poo-poo.
I'm just saying. So I had a hoopu out. He managed to kill it. I had another hoopu out. Then I played my Ominous Sphinx, which is the 4/4 for 5 with flying. And by the time I have like 7 or 8, 9 mana out or something, having not missed a land drop because I have hoopus, and I didn't really have that much else going on in my hand, so I was just like, I'll just keep drawing cards, gaining life. I know how important that is. So he did get a couple of early game creatures out, but then he kind of stalled out at 3 mana, which most of his deck can be played for 3 mana or less, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But he finally draws his 4th land. This is his first forest. He plays it. He goes, oh, there we go. I'm going to attack you down to 5. I'm like, okay. It's like, and I'm going to kill your Ominous Sphinx. I'm like, well, if you insist. Then he's like, and now I will pass the turn. And I go, life goes on? Yeah. Life goes on? Yeah. Activate my hoopu. So I'm now back up to 23 life. He's down to 6 because I have been attacking him with my 4/4 flyer and my river hoopu. So 5 a turn, that adds up pretty quick.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes. So then he's like, fine. So I have to say though, knowing that I had these, and his deck is so heavy on removal, I knew he was going to kill one of my creatures before he killed me.
Yeah.
So I just made sure I kept 2 green mana up every turn after about turn 5.
Yeah.
Which I was able to do again because I was drawing so many cards that I was able to hit all my land drops and things like that. So it just allowed me to play in a different fashion. I was much more aggressive than I would have been otherwise because I didn't really care about leaving blockers behind. I just wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
So then, you know, I untap. One of the many cards I've drawn in the last couple of turns is my other Sphinx, the 5/3 quasi-hexproof. So I play that. He goes, ugh. And then, you know, it's his turn. He attacks me down to like 18 or something. And I'm like, okay, swinging for lethal.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh.
So that those cards are terrible until they're not.
So
Well,
I've
that's
discovered
the
the
point of that
perfect
card,
matchup.
Yeah.
I also played against the shop owner's son, and he also almost beat me, but not
Yeah.
quite. And the one game that he almost won, he was stuck on 2 land for the longest time.
Yeah.
But he still almost won. So
yes.
like his
His
deck
deck is very low to
Yes,
the ground.
and he's a very good player.
I
Also-
don't think he has anything that costs more than 5 mana in his deck. And the one
Yeah.
thing that he does have that costs 5 will be Neheb.
Yeah, and Neheb is what he discarded to my Wretched Camel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 2 land? Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
fair enough.
sure.
It's a
And
smart play.
Smart play. So, yeah. I would not be surprised if he went far
Oh,
in
yeah.
this league.
Yeah, he usually does quite well in it. He said that his eventual plan is to go mono red.
Ooh,
Yeah.
what a monster!
Mono red.
I'm gonna have some words with him because I might have some trades for him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah.
So, yeah, I'm also very much having fun with my deck. I looked through my card pool. I've been opening really badly for my deck. So far, I think I've opened 2 or 3 cards that I've put in. So I did end up trading for like 3 different cards during our week 1-2 trade pool. So that helped a lot. I tend to aim for commons first.
Yeah. That's fair.
Because I just think that the numbers are more important than the specific quality of one card that I may or may not draw in a turn. But again, it certainly does depend, and if I can get a more high quality rare or mythic this time around, I probably will. But I don't know if the deck I'm running is the one I'm supposed to be building still,
Yeah.
but I don't care.
Yeah,
Because
that's fair.
my other options are like black-green, which I did last league, and it's a great deck, but I'm sick of it.
Sure.
I could also probably try a black-white deck, not specifically zombies, although I did open a Wayward Servant, but I have a lot of great black, and my white's quite good.
There's enough incidental zombies that
Yeah.
even if you're not zombies, in black-white you tend to be anyway.
Yeah.
It's like,
Exactly. So I think I'm just going to keep them for trade fodder. Like, I opened an Omen Eternal, and I've got like a black cartouche, and like I said, the Wayward Servant, and still have a lot of good red cards, even though I traded many of them away to the shop owner's son for his mono red plan as my trades for the first session. So I'm happy with the direction I'm going in. I don't necessarily want to continue splashing the white if I don't have to, just because it's still causing me issues.
You prefer to still just be Simic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As is true in life.
Sure.
So, but again, like I said, I'm still kind of futzing around with the how much ramp, how much fixing, which specific deserts, how many tap lands, that sort of thing. So we'll see how it goes next week once I've made a few more changes.
Sounds good.
Me too.
Did we do any more Magic that we want to talk about, or should we go on to our topic?
I think so.
Cool. So, Laura, you had the topic for this week.
Yeah, just in light of the recent Games Day and the fact that Steph and I have now done some more recent Standard, I thought it would be interesting to talk about budget, specifically brews, versus, more tier 1/expensive decks.
This is very timely because I spent several hours yesterday looking at not only standard decks, the current meta standard and the rogueless, but also looking at modern decks. Like I was like, what do I like to play? Well, I wouldn't mind playing an unblockable deck. So let's go look up what is in unblockable and modern. And I'm like, wow, we can't afford those cards at all.
Yeah.
And so then I'm realizing that a lot of the really expensive stuff is land. So
Yes.
this is a perfect topic right now we can jump into because it's going to be helpful for me too.
Yeah, and the reason I thought of it was just because I came in second at this Games Day, running not a tier 1 deck, but it had a lot of tier 1 cards. Like, it had Tireless Trackers, it had Liliana, it had Fatal Push, it had Grasp of Darkness, it had a lot of the cards that, if I were to go, I should build myself a deck for Standard, I would go, yeah, but do I want to do that, or do I maybe just want to do a more, a fun budget deck?
Yeah.
And, compared to the last Games Day where I came in second, and I was running Mono Blue Brain in a Jar, which is a fun, super budget deck, and I think this might be a key point, has an alternate win condition.
Yeah.
I mean, quasi-alternate, because it's usually, for me, it was always part of the Water Veil. I didn't win a single time with zombies, but,
Sure.
it's, I think, like, looking back on the budget standard decks I've played, which are most of them, I tend not to put too much money into the tier decks, although I usually am pretty lucky about just opening standard staples.
Sure.
Like, I opened a playset of Tireless Trackers. I opened nearly a playset of the first Gideon and
Nice.
Avacyn.
Yeah.
So I tend to open really good standard staples, but, usually not what the actual deck lists call for. So then you're like, well, do I build this deck and then just substitute in different cards that are maybe less powerful, or do I just try for a different deck and put these in as upgrades for what they would call for instead? But a lot of times when I'm playing a budget deck, I feel so far behind. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be playing, let's say I was playing one of my mono blue decks that I played for a couple of times in Standard. I'll be playing and I'll be like, I'm going to anticipate. Now I'm going to do this. And they're like, Glimmer of Genius, Torrential Gearhulk back my Glimmer of Genius.
Yeah.
I'm like, I am so far behind.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to spend $30 on a Torrential Gearhulk, and this guy's playing 4 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that a lot in budget lists. It's kind of like they're just rougher around the edges than the tier 1 equivalents, and it's like the difference between good sturdy cotton and silk, or it's just like this, especially the mana base. If you have to play tap lands versus shock lands, like I was playing Guild Gates when everyone was shocking in their steam vents.
That would put you so far behind.
And it was like, I'm just stalling. I'm one turn behind every single turn.
Yeah.
And it's just...
And then you do play
their
that tier
decks
1
go
deck.
like butter.
And you're like, oh my god, this is so much better. I feel powerful. I feel like I'm ahead, even. Like, I'm keeping up.
Now that sounds, to those people who haven't tried standard or, whatever, very depressing that, okay, so I'm going to play the standard, the budget deck, and I'm never going to win. What I looked at, though, and is it fair to say that this is kind of common, that, like, if you take something like a mono red burn deck.
Oh, yeah. Mono red's always going to be the cheapest you can get.
And it's still going to be competitive against the tier 1
Well,
other stuff.
Specifically in Modern, because a lot of the times you can get away with, my mana base is 20 basic mountains.
Yeah.
What was that meme? Your blood moon doesn't affect me. I can't afford fancy lands.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
But monocolored decks in any color, like that was the the finals was mono black versus mono red, right? And those are two fairly cheap lists, but they're top tier because they're one color you don't have to have four different expensive lands.
He had 4 Ifnir Dreadlands.
And that was the only
Which
fancy
you
one.
probably already have a
We
playset
have
of, yeah.
a playset or 2 playsets.
I opened one this week.
We both love black, so
Yeah.
I was really excited to see it was going to be less expensive. But it seems to me, especially in Modern, when you start getting into blue and stuff like that, where you're looking at doing combos and hinky kind of stuff like that, that's where the cost starts to really go up.
And it's, I mean, the cards, sure, but it's mostly the lands, because you're going to want the shocks and the fetches, and those are in any modern list, right?
Yeah, the problems, though, are when you're trying to play a card that's terrible in Standard, but is great in Modern. Like, if you try and get a Thought-Knot Seer, which is not played in Standard, they're still, $5-10 because they are played in Modern. And you're like, but I don't want it for Modern. I'm playing it for Standard. Nobody's playing it in Standard. Why isn't it 50 cents?
Yeah.
And I think, like I was mentioning, I think one of the really key strategies to a successful budget list is something like an alternate win condition. Because then you're just not even playing the same game. Your opponent's like, I'm playing to get you down to 0. And you're like, I'm playing to cast Approach of the Second Sun twice.
Yeah.
Or I'm playing to get to 10 mana so I can cast Part of the Water Veil 3 times and hit you in the face with a 20/20 land.
And that's the reason my mono white list did so well in Standard, I feel, because it was mono white approach. So I was just exiling everything and then casting Approach of the Second Sun.
Right.
And most of my opponents didn't know how to deal with that, especially the first time.
Yeah.
You know?
And this is why I would encourage, all those kitchen table brewers who don't want to come out and try out their decks to do it. Because especially when a store plays within its own specific meta, you bring something new into the fold that people don't know, they don't expect. And oftentimes that alternate win condition, if it's there, can be really hard to deal with. Yeah. And I think that's where budget decks can shine. Especially in the hands with people who don't, that saying that don't tell a child they can't do it and they won't know they can. So, so they won't know they can't, so they'll just do it. Don't tell people they can't brew these decks and play them. And it's amazing what you're going to see come out.
I think GP Minneapolis was a great example of that because it was the week after the Pro Tour where Mono Red just dominated.
Oh, yeah.
And
6 of the top 8.
There were, it was around, but in the top 8 of GP Minneapolis, there were at least 5 different lists. I don't know what the whole breakdown was. And they weren't all tier 1 lists either. Like, there were some weird brews.
Yeah, the top 6 were totally different decks. All different. There was Mardu Vehicles, the Zombies.
But there was Mardu Vehicles Control.
Yeah.
And Black-Green Constrict. Yeah.
Right? So it was really cool. To us, we were like, wow, this is showing the beginnings or the continuation of a healthy Standard where there's just other stuff going on than 2 decks.
It makes me want to play more.
Yeah.
Sure. But I think one of the other, and I won't say really problems with budget decks, because if you're playing a budget deck, you're either playing it because you like playing budget decks or you play it because you're on a budget. So, there are only so many different directions you can go with that. But the tier 1 decks have all been optimized by pros, by people playing leagues on Magic Online, by, the best of the best. And not just that, but so many people who are really good at Magic. They look at it, they evaluate it, they run statistical analyses of the various different builds of it, and that sort of thing. Whereas budget lists, like, someone comes up with them and goes, oh, this works really well at my store.
Yeah.
And
the other benefit of the tier 1 decks is not only is the information on paper available, but you can also watch people playing them. So you can learn how to pilot the deck to its optimum.
That's a great point.
Yeah, especially when you're seeing them against other top tier decks. You see that deck go up against Mardu Vehicles and you're like, oh, so that's how they properly sideboard against it. And it gives you such an advantage.
You know what, I don't agree with it. I think that I would do this in a similar situation.
Yeah.
And one of the things, like you said, they're fully tuned and optimized. The tier 1 lists, like, you'll be running 4 Fatal Push instead of, Splendid Agonies because that's what you have.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
So the removal is better or cleaner the lands do more, but I think a great way to look into a budget list is find something that's just not being played right now. Like cats.
Cats with boxes.
One of the things, again, from GP Minneapolis was like Avacyn made an appearance again.
It was
the
really
card
cool.
that everyone forgot about,
Yeah.
but is sweet, right?
I always liked Avacyn.
Yeah.
it's pretty
But she
good.
hasn't seen play in, what, months?
A few months, yeah. I mean, she was just kind of overpowered by various redonkulous standard decks that have since been banned. But
But, like, the reason I want to put together the Fraying Sanity list is because it's a rogue list that is kind of a budget deck, and I don't think... Well, people will be expecting it now because other people are playing it.
Yeah.
But this past weekend, no one would have seen it coming. You know?
yeah, the other thing I have trouble with budget decks, especially because a lot of times I don't brew my own budget lists. You know, I go to Tapped Out, or I go to Saffron Olive, my most favorite MTG content creator of all time, and you know, just look at what they're playing. But the problem is that if you're looking at somebody else's list, they're building what they have.
Yeah.
So they're like, I'm only running 2 Fatal Pushes because that's all I own. And you're like, well, I own 3. Wait, what do I take out? You know, and I have one of these instead of one of these, or should I do like... And then you have to still do your own theorizing and testing, and it's not just I'm just going to download the top deck and build it and play it, and that'll get me most of the way there.
And that sounds like how I used to play Kitchen Table. You know, like,
Yeah.
that's exactly how it went. Huh, I've got 3 of these Psychic Venoms. I guess I'm playing 3 of them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so it's kind of tough psychologically when you are playing tier 1 decks with your I built it out of what I own, and I own a lot of commons type of deck.
I think there's stuff to be gained from it, though, because
Absolutely.
I think experience-wise, it's teaching you how to... Because, like you said, the budget deck that you may see may have 2 of these and you have 1, and you just cannot find the other one. It's teaching you how to, okay, well, I can't do this, so maybe I'll just put this in and I'll try it, and if it doesn't work, what else can I do? It's teaching you to be able to brew your own stuff. So I think there's definitely something to be said for it.
Also, fringe benefit, it'll really mess with your opponents during sideboarding.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, they won't know how to sideboard against your mono green whatever list.
But I think maybe my... Like, the thing with budget lists is that it takes it back to the time-honored trade-off of time versus money.
Yeah.
If you have the money, you just buy whichever tier deck looks sweet. And if you have the time, but not the money, you get a budget list that's close to something that you'd like to play and is close to what you own, and you spend the time to adjust it and build it and test it and adjust it and test it and et cetera, et cetera. And if you have both, then you can do whatever you want.
It reminds me of something that Judge John said that he heard somewhere when I first started really playing at a shop level that has stuck with me. He had heard it said that if you don't brew, then you have no heart. And if you don't neck deck, then you have no head. And you need both in order to be a fully well-rounded Magic player. You need to be able to both pilot a deck that someone else has made and brew your own.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
You're looking at me like you don't agree.
Well, I mean, first of all, it obviously only applies to standard or constructed.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because you can't net deck a draft deck, really.
Yeah, fair.
Not really. So, and, you know, none of us are primarily constructed players.
No, that's true.
But I think it just depends on what you want to do.
And you know, I know I've mentioned this before, and it's part of the thing about Magic that has made me a little bit sad, because I came to Magic and my first love of Magic was building decks. That was the thing that made me want to play, was grabbing the binders and going through and finding some random card and going, oh my gosh, what can I do with this to put it together? And then sitting down at the kitchen table and being like, haha.
You made a deck built around slippery boggles.
I did. Before
Not
it was a thing.
Knowing anything
Yes,
about boggles.
you're-
Because I thought they were awesome.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, how can this be wrong? But now I don't do it very often because I'm just not going to be competitive at a standard level because we don't have the money to put into to invest in the lands or whatever.
It's mostly the lands too.
Yeah,
Well,
and
not like in this standard, I wouldn't say, because the lands are actually quite cheap now.
Yeah,
that
They're less
now that
so.
the fetches
Yeah.
have rotated out, like you
Yeah.
can get a lot of them for less than $5.
That's fair.
yeah.
But like Liliana will still run you about 50.
Yeah,
Well,
that's true.
from
Fatal
start
Push is 10.
from start to finish, the mono black zombie Steve Locke's deck from start to finish in paper, including the sideboard and the lands, is $239. I don't have $239, and that's a reasonable price.
Absolutely,
for
that's
those people.
much
Well,
cheaper than standard was when
let's-
like Jace VP was in.
Let's
Yeah.
be fair here. Magic constructed is not
For
reasonable.
Yeah,
No, it's an
Like-
expensive
it's
hobby.
a hobby.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
And
not reasonably
it's not
priced hobby.
hog.
And
No.
if you choose a deck and you stick with the deck for the standard format, that is about 3 months worth. So, you know, if you ameliorate it over that time, it's like $80 a month.
which is still a lot of money for some of us. And the thing is, I think you have to then choose your format.
Yes.
Because we could not afford to do limited, which is our love, and dedicate ourselves to competitive standard as
yeah.
well. Because we just couldn't
'Cause-
afford to do that. You cannot play limited hoping you're going to open the stuff you need for standard, because that's not going to happen.
Especially if you've already built your standard deck.
You need to buy the singles. And so it's going to be one of those, unless you're lucky enough to have a really nice income to play whatever you like. But most people, that's just not the case.
Yeah. Or you're one of those rare people who makes money off of playing Magic.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, live the dream, baby. Live
Yeah.
the dream.
But yeah,
wish.
I mean, let's say you're trying to be, you know, you're trying to draft once a week, so that's $15 Canadian, at least,
Yeah.
you know, a week. Plus, let's say you have your $240 net deck or whatever, so that's $80 a month, that's $20 a week, that's $35 a week right there
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Magic. I mean, that's almost the grocery budget for one person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
Nope.
But what I do like is there is generally something out there that you can do and still be competitive. For example, mono red.
Yeah.
You can pick up a lot of that stuff if you draft red at your store. You can pick up a lot of the stuff that's going to be great for your little aggro deck, and you can kill a lot of people really fast with that. So
I
there
wonder
is stuff out there.
if you could swap out 4 Hazarets for 4 Inferno Jets.
No.
No?
No. I mean, we do have this one player who comes out to almost every games day, and ever since Shadows over Innistrad has come out, he has been trying to build a red-green werewolf deck.
Really?
Yeah.
He started in Battle for Zendikar, tried to build red-green landfall, and then when Shadows came out, he tried to build red-green werewolves, and he's still playing that same deck, even though it's going to be rotating onto standard shortly. He's just been upgrading it every set with slightly
Wow.
different cards. And he never does that well. I think he usually goes like 2-2 at games days.
But is he having fun?
Yes.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the
Take away
the
at the
real
end of the day.
goal, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, presumably, if you're not willing to put the money in for a tier 1 deck or the time to really optimize a budget brew, then having fun is
And the
hopefully
thing
your
is,
goal.
we don't know. I mean, he may be learning invaluable deck lessons from doing this over and over. We may find in a year's time he becomes the next great brewer because he's learning all of these interesting things. I say that the people who try stuff today without worrying about whether they're sticking to the standard meta are the people that, you know, in 5 years' time are going to be sitting in the pro circle, being the ones that are dictating what are the, you know, next
it's
big
possible.
It's possible. But
they were not pros their whole lives.
I
They
mean,
were
again,
F&M players at one point.
I think it's the time trade-off, though, because if you have the time to do a lot of that, especially if you can play Magic Online a lot.
Sure.
Like, once
That's a
you've,
big thing.
Like, once you've, you know, acquired most of the cards for your deck online, they're usually much cheaper than they are in person, especially for standard staples.
And the iteration time is so much
Yeah.
lower on Magic Online.
Absolutely. And then, let's say you're get your deck good enough to, like, 5-0 League or something like that, and your list gets published. Suddenly everybody else is going to be playing it, and they'll do all the work for you on optimizing it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
So I think, though, that the problem is if you do only go out to standard once a week, it's going to take you so long to actually optimize your deck.
Yeah, probably longer than the format is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I played my Mono Brains deck, which then turned into a solely Partha Waterveil deck. And I loved it because I love Partha Waterveil, and every standard deck I've had until this week basically has had it in there as a win condition because it's such a fun card. And that makes me okay with not doing as well as I would have if I had a tier deck because I just love playing that game. And the times when I do get there, it feels so good.
It's a Johnny moment for sure.
It's great. But, it's still a little bit disheartening when my opponent just completely outclasses me on card quality and there's nothing I can do about it. Because you're like, even if I had drawn perfectly, it doesn't match up.
Yeah. Any last thoughts before we take this away?
Just keep playing.
Yeah.
Find what you like to play and play it.
So thanks for joining us this week, guys and gals and everyone out there listening. You can find us every week here on The Knowledge Pool. If you like this podcast, please think about giving us a 5-star on iTunes. It would really help continue to spread the word of The Knowledge Pool. And also check out our sweet drafts and everything else on our YouTube channel. All of the links to find us are in the show notes, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening.
And have fun playing.
Really?
What?
You got a slurp. That's gross. Stafford.
Should we get into a slurping contest like in Clue? The best movie of all time? I'm really bad at it.
And with that, Laura leaves the podcast because she's choked to death.
Oh no.